to try to start up a business in a risky, environment. So you've got a small percentage of people who are self-responsible, who are self-driven, who are able to lead themselves and as a result lead others. Then you have this mass population who are easily swayed by public opinion and simply go with public thought. And so they are easily influenced. And then you have 20 to 30% that simply don't have an independent thought of their own at all. And they literally beg to be led. Like the security is one of their main human needs. Tony Robbins does great work with the 6 human needs, and security is one of those, security and stability. And so there's a percentage of the population that simply needs security and stability. So to think that we could ever live in an anarchistic society seems like a huge ideal, because the majority of the population is not personally responsible. If you asked the population of Canada tomorrow to be completely independent and personally responsible for their income, for their health, for their well-being, for their security, for their food, and for their energy, there's not a lot of Canadians that you would have that would vote and say, yeah, I'll take 100% complete freedom for 100% self-responsibility and personal responsibility. Most people would be uncomfortable with that. I'd be uncomfortable with that because I don't know how to provide my own energy and my own food right now. I depend on others for that, right? So there's this this interesting balance that we have to find in society between complete freedom and complete independence and this anarchistic model, and still being able to work together. And when we look at the new models in decentralization and blockchain and things like that, there start to be examples. We're starting to see examples where you can operate in a self-sufficient, independent mode, and still be able to integrate with other independent nodes. In blockchain and in decentralization, they use this concept of nodes, right? And again, this is over my head. I don't know this technical stuff, but they use this concept of nodes, and that's the kind of way that I see it. If we're going to be able to move into a decentralized society, I think it's a movement going back to local communities, where you're having these local independent nodes that are self-governing, that interact with other independent self-governing nodes. Now, what you're looking at there is you're looking at potentially tens of thousands. Like right now we have 192 independent states or something like that, right? That interact in the free market and trade with each other and all that kind of stuff. And that seems to be even too centralized, because then you have a place like Canada, you have a place like America with all these different states and provinces and communities that have different needs and different economic needs, different philosophical belief systems, different values, and they clash and there's conflict because they don't agree on the same things. What if we organized ourselves based on more based on values, and we could organize ourselves into these independent, self-reliant, self-functioning nodes that then interacted with other nodes, other communities? And I think blockchain and the technologies that are coming out are going to make this more possible in the future. And I think we're starting to see the beginnings of that.
Can I chime in for a sec? It's just so ironic that's it's almost like we need the destruction of the world to reassemble in that fashion. But that self-assembly is so natural. It reminds me of a beehive or an ant colony or something more in tune with nature. And if we're part of the ecology of the planet, to get along in our communities and be self-sustaining and sufficient, that may be the most harmonious and natural state for us to be in, rather than this trying to orchestrate and govern the entire planet, work from the communities outward into the global community.
That's where I see the future, and I see that push happening around the world right now. And even in there's a lot of people that are looking to indigenous cultures for guidance, because they kind of operated in that decentralized mode. They didn't have large nation states. They operated as local tribes, and again, dependent on the local environment. So then this is a much more environmentally sustainable, whatever the hell those words mean, but it's a much more tune with nature type of way of living, because our needs here in the southern Okanagan, for instance, or on the coast of BC, are very different than the needs of the prairies or in the Alberta Rockies or in the Maritimes. And to think that you can centrally manage and create rules and regulations from some central body, I mean, it is one of the most ignorant concepts that humankind could come up with. And I remember, joking around about this with Mark Friesen, because obviously he's battling against globalization, because globalization is the epitome of this ignorance of the idea of centralization and central control and central management, central planning. That's the word. Where they're talking about creating bike lanes in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, where you can only ride a bike 4 months of the year because it's snow and winter the rest of the year, right? And they're using concepts that some bureaucrat in a suit in some office in Sweden or Switzerland came up with. We need bike lanes because they're environmentally friendly. Yeah, that's a great idea for Los Angeles and Phoenix and maybe in Toronto or maybe in Vancouver, but not so much in Winnipeg. Like maybe there's smarter ways that we can apply these, that we can eliminate the use of carbon fossil fuels and stuff in Manitoba. Like we've got to, there's different solutions depending on the climate that you live in, the location that you live in, the culture that you live in. And we can't apply these. And this is the problem again with centralization, is they're trying to apply one solution to everybody. These jabba jabbas are a perfect example of that, right? The ignorance to think that you could create one medical remedy for all humanity, for all civilizations, regardless of their unique needs. It's ignorance on a massive scale. And to think that these are the most educated people in our society. This is the best. These politicians, these health experts, and these scientists, this is the best of our people. Like that's where you kind of shake your head. Like
And
this is what we've come up with. This is the best of the people that we've put. These are the best and the brightest, really.
it's so important to have these conversations. Like I read this book that I've got here that's called Collapse: How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed. I was hoping you guys could see it. I think Richard's having lunch. But it's yeah, how societies choose to fail or succeed. And it's it describes previous civilizations like on Easter Island or the Mayans in Mexico, and how they ended up self-destructing or using up all their resources. And a lot of it came down to ignorance and greed. And that if we're going to live into the future and not repeat past mistakes, we've got examples from previous civilizations that have failed, and we're headed, full speed ahead into that direction. And because the people that have the power to make the decisions, because they have all the gold, are doing it for selfish greed, the same reasons why previous civilizations cut down every last tree and then starved to death. And we don't have to get there. There's no, like you said, it's a bit of ignorance, because how can you centrally control the entire planet's resources and decide what's best for people? But just to have that kind
I'm
of power, it's very stirring.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and I see hope, because I see it in many different realms. Like I see people talking about these types of conversations in many different areas of expertise. So there's people in health and in medicine that are talking about decentralization and the individuality and individual solutions. There's people in finances, in crypto. There's people in business and industry. So these conversations are happening. It's just unfortunately the powers that control the money and the resources, they want to hold on to that money and resources, greed, right? And so this is what we're up against, is the fact that 4,000, 5,000, how many ever thousand years of civilization, since the beginning of civilization, were ruled by these base human biological desires of greed and self-preservation. And unfortunately, as a species, we really haven't matured very much. We really haven't grown. We're dealing with exactly the same, human needs that we have for thousands of years. And I guess the big question for us as a society is, how do we empower our true best and brightest? Because right now we've empowered the greediest. And the incentives that we've created in our systems, in our economic systems and financial systems, the incentives that we've created, and we all know this, the incentives that we've created celebrate and empower those who are the greediest.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the biggest problem that we have. And so we need to fix the incentive structures.
I sometimes
In a
wonder if sorry, Chad, I'll let you. I just want one thought
Yeah, go
quickly.
ahead.
I sometimes wonder if the spiritual battle that we keep talking about through all of this, if there's something to that too, because there's even a very scientific cause and effect. Like if you do something for so long, there's this energetic. It's like the universe has laws and rules to it, and you just can't sustain it for long. Or is that the challenge that we're up against? Is that even though you're might be playing out this story of power and control and greed, and then it results in the oppression of the people, and that's not sustainable, period. And so is that the eventual final wall, but we all just get dragged through a lot of pain and suffering to get there? Meanwhile, the people that get to eat like fat cats just do so as long as they're possible, as they're able to? Or does it require the pain and suffering to happen sooner for people to actually realize we can change our ways before all the inevitable end of that?
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like we need to go through the pain and the suffering, because everything that I know about human psychology and everything I've personally experienced and worked with clients as well, um, we need crisis, unfortunately. For most humans, we don't have the foresight to be able to course correct, um, unless we've really done the work on ourselves, and that takes years. We're usually not able to course correct until we're hit smack in the face with our consequence. You know, when the doctor says,
Mm-hmm.
look, you've got cancer and you got a year to live, then we make changes. When your wife says, I'm leaving you, it's over, then you make changes. And so that's our challenge as each individual humans is how do we deal with our own shit so that we can get ahead of this, so that we can be more enlightened and be mature and accept the realities of the problems that we have. The problem is that for the majority of humans, we can't even accept that our systems are broken, right? Our powers that be will defend everything that we've had and we've built. And until we're able to acknowledge issues, like that's the first step in any recovery is to acknowledge what the problem is, acknowledge that you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the majority of humans on this planet will, for some reason, or especially those in power, will not acknowledge that there's a problem, that our systems are broke, that it's not serving the majority of humans. And then they get us to fight over ridiculous things like what gender you are and what color you are, so that we can't all get together and fight the actual problem, which is we have a system that doesn't support human life.
Right.
We have incentives
Mm-hmm.
that empower those that are greedy.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if Chad's got some final thoughts on that.
Yeah,
I'd
we do have to move forward here, but my thought on it is for both Norbert and Travis there, that if we were to get rid of the centralized groups or the the powers that be, if that was to be removed, do you think naturally people would form those nodes and find a more harmonious way to live, or do you think there would be some sort of action that would have to be taken once the centralized structure is, say if it was to be dismantled, once that's gone, would there need to be an action to get people to do it, or do you think people do it naturally?
It's a great question. I do think that people would do it naturally. Um, Listening to another great speaker on this, he's got a really complicated name, but I do think people would do it naturally. Like that's what the whole free market is about. Free market economy is just about allowing humans to interact with each other naturally, the way that they naturally would in a free market. Um, I don't think we'll ever be able to really dismantle Like, I don't think we're going to be able to dismantle the old system the way that it is. I can't imagine how that would happen. If anything, we need to create an alternative alongside, and then people would be able to make a choice as far as how they interact. Who knows what this looks like? All I know is that we need people who are more enlightened, who have dealt with their issues and aren't driven by just greed. We need the right people in power. We need the right people to be able to help us structure systems. I don't know, and we need to, as individuals, we need to continue to build these new infrastructures, right, and to build new ways of living, to show as an example for others. And I think every little step is important. I don't know what the solution looks like, but all I know is that we've got to continue to work on the alternatives to that centralized power. And the more that we work on these alternatives, the more that we keep moving it forward, we'll see what evolves.
Right on.
I very much agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just
Alrighty,
excited
folks, so
that.
Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna stop because I know we gotta move on.
Norbert, it's great
We can
to
talk
have you
for
on here.
hours on this.
Absolutely. It is
We'll do that
worthwhile.
one day.
Look forward to having you on another deep intellectual conversation, right? Where we can solve the world's problems like this.
Yeah, would love to for sure. Lots of problems to solve.
Yeah. Well, we got to get talking and get people in the communities talking.
All right,
Yeah,
folks. I think
exactly.
we're moving on to a quick ad here, and then we'll be right back. All righty, folks, and we're back. That was a great interview with Norbert. If you're not on Liberty already, go check out liberty.com. And the spelling, I guess you would have seen it there underneath Norbert's name. And Richard, maybe you can put that up if we have it. But you can find it out there, liberty.com. It's spelled LIBRTI, something like that. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we're going to go to a funding update now for what we've accomplished so far, and we are at 460 is what we've accomplished so far, which is an awesome start to the day. You know, we have a goal of getting to 3,500, and yeah, like I had mentioned earlier, we don't, and some of the methods that we have available, the reason why we have multiple methods out there to fund is because some of them are having issues. I just actually had gotten a message on Telegram from a viewer saying that PayPal was not letting them support us. So if you are having issues on one of the platforms, you can go right over to Kathy at notTV and send her an email and just make a pledge, and then we can get a hold of you and sort it out that way. And that way it'll also count in the tally if it goes through PayPal, credit card, or something like that. We don't actually know what it is until we go back and look at the statement sort of deal. So if for the pledges or for the auctions, the quickest way for us to be able to update everybody on the show would be through the emails. And yeah, if one of the methods are not working, please do try a different method, because we have been getting hit with all sorts of different issues online, and even our emails. Some of our emails have been getting blocked, I guess you'd call them, or so that's where the Proton Mail comes into play, is because our notTV emails have been getting censored in a roundabout way. I don't know all the technical reasons on why that is, but Travis, what are your thoughts?
I'm not 100% sure. Like we got a message from somebody who was trying to share a link to this event that we were doing today in an email campaign, and she goes through an online service, and they wouldn't let her publish her email that was going to go out, and it stayed in draft mode. So she called the company, recorded the phone call, sent it to us. I just had a listen, and they said, "Oh, notTV is on our you can't promote them. He said, what? Why can't you? And he said, well, it probably went against our terms and conditions. So I go on the website and look at the terms and conditions, and there's nothing glaring that we're doing, nothing that jumps out. It says, like, if you're doing anything that is illegal locally, federally, or internationally, what could we possibly? We've spoken out against Trudeau. That's the closest thing I know. During the Freedom
In a communist
Convoy,
organization, that would be illegal.
right? So to what extent now the government of Canada put a lot of pressure on GoFundMe when they were raising money for the trucker convoy, and then that company ended up freezing freezing the account and then sending money back. They were actually going to keep the money and just disperse it to a charity of their choice or whatever charity was listed. And people complained, uproar, because they didn't say that they wanted it to go to that charity. They wanted it to go to the truckers. So then they ended up reversing that and sending the money back to the original donors. And the government put a lot of pressure on that company. So I don't know where the pressure is coming from for one of these email marketing companies to not allow somebody to link to our website. I don't know exactly how that happened or what association was made.
But we
I
are getting
suppose
censored in some fashion.
in the sense that we have content that would get us kicked off YouTube. Interestingly, our YouTube feed did go down, and I don't know if we hit like a time frame window. Maybe we were streaming for so long and we just haven't reached the level where we get to stream all day. I don't know, but I got the stream restarted, so now we'll just wait and see if we've got a flag for anything. So far, listening to the
Too many
content, it
keywords.
seems, yeah, then the robots kick in, and then it all breaks loose. So
Oh, breaks loose. Yeah. Alrighty, folks, we're going to go over to talk about a little bit of the auctions. So for those of you that have been with us, you said you have a something there, Richard, to start with. Okay. So there's the auction with 45-minute life coaching with Dana, and that is a one-on-one. Or Donna? Is that what I spell it? Donna?
Yep.
Okay. Donna, and it's a $385 value Canadian, and the opening bid is at 100. Do we have any other bids on that we are aware of to bring that up? Apparently, it's still at 100, so go over there and check that out to get a 45-minute life coaching with Donna, and see if what she can help you with in the realm of your personal life. And I'm sure every one of us can use help in some fashion. The other auction item is from Susan, and she has a new book out, and it is, as you can see there on the screen, it is titled Betrayed. She has three copies of that book that will go to the top three in the auction. So whoever the top three highest bids in the auctions, that is, each one of you will get a book. And she said herself that if you were on here with us earlier, that she will mail those out as soon as she gets those names and contact information. So get your copy of her Betrayed book. It's being told it's a $60 minimum for this book, and help fundraise, help us reach our goal of $3,500 to cover our costs. As you can see there on the screen, there is the different methods of supporting us, and for this fundraiser, you can email the pledge. You can go to PayPal, which I just mentioned. Some people are having issues with PayPal, so maybe steer clear of that one. You can either transfer to donate at notTV, and you can email Kathy at notTV. And probably the safest way, if you want to get it in and for us to be able to tally it right away on the show here, is to email your pledge to realnottv at protonmail.com. Is so far the safest way and the fastest way to get it to us, and then we will contact you from there for the to get that finalized. Alrighty, we have our next interview.
and then
Okay, so we have 15 minutes or so before we get into our next interview with David Whitehead. So we're going to go to some music for you guys to listen to, and we're going to take a little bit of a break here for ourselves. I'm going to do I got that. We're just going to take a little bit of a break here, and we will be back shortly Facebook will be turned off during this time because of the censorship. We have permission to play the music that is going to be played, but Facebook apparently doesn't care whether we have permission or not, so they would censor us. So we're just going to not go there. So if you want to watch this, go over to liberty.com and you can watch it from there. And that is librti.com, if I have that correct, I believe.
Go over to the website too, notTV, and you'll see a big live link right in the menu, notTV, and you can watch there as well. So to the Facebook and YouTube audience, we're going to cut this feed for the next portion. So head over to not.tv, or if you haven't signed up for Liberty, librti.com yet, head over there and get into that social network. Thanks, Chad.
Right on, folks. We will see you shortly.